Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Black Facts. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about postpartum depression. My special guest is Nicole B. Barnett. She's a licensed social worker, and she's also a postpartum depression survivor and a clinical social worker by training. Nicole brings a personal and professional perspective to maternal mental health advocacy, education, and support. Nicole is also an author of a new book titled Out of the Mouths of Babes. It's a 31-day devotional that she shares lighthearted adventures of her motherhood journey, and she hopes that it brings insight and encourages others as they go along their journey of motherhood. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Black Facts. I want to welcome my special guest, Nicole Barnett. I'm so happy to have you here on Black Facts to talk about postpartum depression, such an important topic that we need to discuss. And I couldn't think of anyone better to talk about this topic. You're informed, you're a social worker by profession and a postpartum survivor. So I wanted to kind of get into things. I recently read an article talking about how women of color are more at risk for having postpartum depression than their white counterparts. And I was disturbed because it said 50% of them don't report it. So they're suffering in silence, and they don't report it because of, shame, embarrassment, discriminatory, things that happen when you go and you disclose to your provider that you're feeling a certain kind of way. So I wanted to talk to you, and I know that none of this that I've just shared with you about the article is of surprise to you. So I wanted to talk to you, and can you help us understand a little bit about why Black mothers go through such a hard time or difficult time, and why is it different than those of their counterparts? Excuse me.
That is an excellent question. I'm so glad that you are doing one of your episodes on this topic because it is very important. And it's an interesting question that you raise. I think one of the ways that we can try to think about why motherhood or experiencing postpartum depression might be different for Black moms is just to look at it in the total context of what life is like for Black women in general. And across the board, if you look at health statistics, if you look at earnings and income, oftentimes with the health disparities, any illness, condition, Black women are often faring, if not the worst, very close to the bottom. If you look at wages and earning and income, Black women work twice as hard, but they earn twice as less. You see this consistently across the board. And so in that context, it's no surprise that if how Black women are faring when we look at other factors, why would pregnancy, postpartum, why would that really be any different? So I think that's one way to look at it. And then another way to look at it would be just contextually in a historical sense of Black moms or women. And if we start from when our ancestors were stolen and kidnapped, the experience of moms then sometimes was their children being taken away, or even getting here, their families being split. I mean, the Black family even still being together, and mothers being who they are. When we look at coming from that history, that's also something that makes it not a surprise to me that the challenges can be difficult or different for Black moms.
Well, I kind of jumped the gun. So a little bit, can you take us back and kind of talk to us about what causes postpartum depression?
So sure, postpartum depression, well, first of all, just that term in general, the broader term that is that's used sort of in the clinical field now is maternal mental health conditions. And postpartum depression in particular is just one of those maternal mental health conditions. And so we're going to talk about that mostly today because that was my personal experience as well. But it is caused by just a combination, sort of the perfect storm or the non-perfect storm of biological factors, emotional and mental factors, as well as support factors. And so we know that women's bodies, as they go through pregnancy, deliver, postpartum, breastfeeding, lots of changes are taking place hormonally, biologically. So we know, especially knowing that up to 20% of moms experience some type of maternal mental health condition, that pregnancy in and of itself, the changes that occur in that are part of it. But then you've got mental and emotional pieces there. And so moms who maybe already suffered from a mental health condition, that can be something that puts them more at risk. As well as just all the emotions that moms go through in just the total transition of becoming a mother. And then the social factor in terms of support. And some women have support, some moms don't.
Right.
All moms need support. And I think it's important for moms to get the level of support that they want. So sometimes lack of supports can also be a cause of postpartum depression, but it really can be a ball of factors that come together that then trigger for any particular woman.
When you talked about the stressors, initially, that specifically women of color, Black women experience. So let's talk about how we can break down the fears. I talked about reading an article, and there was another study that really talked about how fearful Black women are when they go to deliver. You hear about the mortality rates, amongst Black women. And then also coupled with that, fear of being judged about, the type of mother that we are portrayed to be in media. So I know a lot of mothers, are fearful of disclosing, if they are having any type of challenges, whether it be medical or mental, challenges. They're fearful of sharing that with their provider because they don't want to be judged or labeled as a bad mom. So let's kind of talk about, what that looks like and how we can start addressing some of those things.
Yes, that is such an important factor that you're bringing up. And those fears are real. Unfortunately, you can't just sort of say, well, you don't need to worry about those fears to a mom. They're realistically based. And so what I sort of think towards addressing that would be education, education, education. The more that we can educate Black moms and women as a whole about postpartum depression, then the more likely they're going to feel that someone is understanding what's going on with them, that they're going to be more likely to ask for help and support and maybe getting the help that they need. But if they're isolated, if moms aren't educated about it themselves, if they feel like no one or don't know anyone that's ever gone through it,
Right.
then they are going to be fearful of going forward. And so just having the support of someone else who already knows about postpartum depression or any type of maternal mental health conditions, that can help alleviate some of the fears.
You said something that really kind of resonated with me. The isolation, the isolation, a lot of us feel, those that have support and those that don't have support, there's a certain, I don't know, I can say as a Black woman, I know that, I'm educated, but I had fears, when I first went in and started accessing, prenatal care, and just some of the comments that were made, about whether or not I had insurance or, just different things. It already kind of sets you back. And so I think it's very important, like you were saying, Nicole, for us to educate ourselves and to be willing, that's why I'm so happy to have you on, to be willing to share, like I've experienced postpartum depression. I'm a survivor, so you can get through this. We need to be willing to be vulnerable, at least amongst our community, and share that we have these challenges so that we can start creating more safe places for us to be able to have these conversations and make sure that, our mothers are getting the help that they so desperately they need. So I learned recently that you are a new author, and I wanted to know, did your experience with postpartum depression, play a part in motivating you to write your book, Out of the Mouths of Babes?
actually did. I was motivated in one sense to write the book as my mother encouraged me to
Mm.
write down stories about my children when they were little and just little experiences that I had with them, things I would tell her that she would think might be funny. She would say, "Oh, you should write that down." And later, those stories now have become a basis for the book. But I definitely will say that finishing this book was sort of like my knockout punch to postpartum depression.
Mm.
Because in my personal experience, I felt like postpartum depression tried to steal my joy of motherhood. It tried to take
Wow.
away the joy that I found in my children. And I was fortunate in one aspect that I had my serious occurrence of postpartum depression after the birth of my third child. And so I already kind of knew what to expect, how I should be feeling,
Right.
knowing that something's not right. So I had that benefit of knowing this isn't a normal experience.
Right.
There is something more than this and something beyond this. And so that was really helpful to me to finish this book and to have a book that talks about the joys of motherhood and the joys of children and what we can learn from just the everyday moments of embracing being a mom in everyday life with our children. So it definitely connected in that way. So much so that the last chapter of the book, I do tell a little bit more about my postpartum depression experience. And my encouragement to moms is, even if that's not your story, even if you
Right.
don't go through postpartum depression, whatever you face in motherhood, it is so worth it to press your way through the journey. So
Mm.
I enjoy encouraging moms. Of course, my heart, I have a special place for moms who are experiencing maternal mental health conditions, but all moms need help. All moms need support. All moms need encouragement. And
Absolutely.
I think that that's also something that needs to change. I think our Western society and the way that we put more value on achievement, achievement,
Mhm.
achievement, and not as much on family and home. And so even just the expectation of women after they're having their babies going back to work in 6 weeks,
Yes.
maybe not having the type of leave. And other countries don't press that way. Other countries
Right.
don't roll that way.
Right.
We roll that way. And it's just such a setback. So if you've got 20% of women experiencing some type of maternal mental health condition, as you pointed out earlier, is the stats for Black women are more like 44%.
Yes.
So we're double.
Mhm.
And we want to create an environment, as you said, where people can be able to speak about postpartum depression, understand what it is, so they don't have to be as fearful when they go to get help.
Yeah, you said something, you were talking about how you had the benefit, I guess, if we want to call it that. You knew what it felt like to be a new mother and to be happy and joyful. And then when you had your third child, you were like, okay, something's not right here. So you had that experience. But for those mothers that are, first time mothers and they don't really know, and people are telling them, oh, you're just sad. It's okay. How, as family members and just other women, how can we kind of help support them and help them recognize that, yeah, this is something different? If they mention it, I'm kind of feeling a little, off, or I'm not as excited about, my new baby, how can we be there to support them and help them recognize that this may be something that they need to get medical attention for?
Yes, that's a great question. And it brings up a really important point in that 80% of new moms experience something called the baby blues. The baby blues is sort of a condition. It is not a maternal mental health condition. It is sort of the normal expectation of having maybe 2 weeks, maybe no longer than 4 weeks, of maybe feeling a little sad, not quite feeling like yourself. New moms are sleep deprived. New moms are, many of them are trying to breastfeed. You're just trying to adjust to like taking care of this whole little life that was just placed, in front of you. And so having 2 to 4 weeks of maybe baby blues, that's fine. That's not a condition that you need to seek help
Right.
for. And you can encourage moms through that period. Where we start to get concerned is if we're getting after the 2-week mark, 3-week, 4-week, if mom's not kind of returning to herself. One of the women that works in the field, Peck Inman, she made a statement that the basic components of your personality should still be intact. And if
Got
you're
it.
seeing a mom that's kind of not quite like herself in many, core
Right.
ways, not just because she's trying to juggle having a new baby, but her core personality is starting to seem different. That's something that you want to look for.
Okay.
I'm a talker, I'm a chatter, as you can see. And in my experience, one of the biggest things was I didn't want to talk to nobody. I
Mm,
was hiding out. I was not taking
got
phone
it.
calls, and people were like, Nicole, don't want to talk on the phone. Like
Right.
it was something different and from my normal core sort of personality. But other things that we can look for are classic symptoms of depression and anxiety. And that would be if moms are having difficulty sleeping or they're sleeping way too much, having difficulty eating, they're not eating enough, or they're eating way too much.
Okay.
Those are some of the signs to look for. If they're sort of having panicky thoughts or scary thoughts, that's another symptom to look for. And then, of course, just we're looking for if you're hearing a mom expressing hurting herself, wanting to harm herself, or even harm her child, that's definitely a symptom of depression. So those are sort of signs that you can look for. And I think what's important to do is when a mom is vulnerable enough, or if she's vulnerable enough to share that information with you, that it is greeted with support and strength. I always try to say to moms, it's okay that you're going through this because you're getting help. And that's what a
Yes.
good mom does. A good
Yes.
mom gets help so that she can be the best mom that she can be. So it actually takes strength to move forward, to reveal, and vulnerability to go forward and share if something isn't quite going on right with you. But I do think that support and having the support of family, friends, who were understanding and who would greet that information,
Yes.
not with shock and awe and surprise, but to say, hey, this happens to 20% of new moms,
Absolutely.
44% Black moms.
Right.
If you're a Black woman,
Yes.
we can get this taken care of and you can get better.
There are young mothers out there that, you shared such good information about how family members can support, how we can recognize if something is off and not, assume that, oh, everything is good. Beyond the 4-week period, if somebody's core personality has changed, then we need to check in with them and see how we can support them and get them, the help that they need. But also, how can we help our young moms that are experiencing, it has been diagnosed that they are experiencing, maternal mental health challenges? What can we do to support them in their recovery, their healing?
That's a great question. One of the things that we can do is to lend practical support and help. And this can even be for moms who haven't been diagnosed yet. And so practical things from offering to help with transportation, if that's an issue for them, offering to help with childcare. Oftentimes, a part of treatment for moms experiencing postpartum depression is individual or group therapy. Moms don't necessarily want to have their baby with them at that time.
Right.
So if you can step in and provide some type of assistance. Right now under COVID, a lot of things are being offered, virtually via Zoom, and that's great. That helps a lot tremendously. But literally offering practical help, and practical help in terms of housework, helping do some of those things that mom might otherwise be able to do if she weren't struggling in the
I
situation.
like
And
that.
then all along with that, all during that time, continuing to affirm to that mom that she is a good mom, that you are doing the right thing. The negative thinking that comes with postpartum depression, it can just take over your mind.
Okay.
It's like a dark cloud that just always stays around your head.
Mhm.
I would describe my experience. I felt like I was walking in a cloud underwater in quicksand
Oh,
with a
wow.
blindfold on, with one hand tied behind my back.
Okay.
That was what life felt like to me. And when you're in that state, hearing someone express confidence in you and confidence in your ability as a mother and support for you getting the help that you need, of realizing, hey, yes, you popped out this baby, but now you're in the 4th trimester.
Right.
Mommy needs to be taken care of too. She is
Right.
just as important. So it is valuable and worth it for you to get the help that you need. And I'm here to help you pick up some slack. Or it might be educating dad about
Right.
the condition and helping him perhaps understand if he doesn't understand already, as we normalize this, because it is the postpartum depression or maternal mental health conditions. They're the #1 childbirth pregnancy complication. If you look at it, that's the #1.
Yes.
This should be just across the board. We do, we are tested for gestational diabetes, when we go. And there's so many other things about pregnancy, important things
Right.
that we are looking for, high blood pressure, things that need to be monitored. But this is the #1 complication. And so with that, we want to make sure as many people as possible are educated so that they
Yes.
realize what it is. They're not surprised, they're not shocked, and they can normalize getting help and actually uplift getting help. Put that in a position of this is the right thing to do.
Yes.
Not,
Yes.
oh, you poor. Moms don't want to feel pitied.
Right.
They want to feel supported.
Well, you said so many things. So many things. I love the fact that you said we need to normalize it. There are so many, so many issues with mental health, right? Emotional health. And we need to destigmatize it. We need to normalize things so people that are hurting can get the help that they so desperately they need. And I love the fact that you gave practical solutions on how we can actually support our mothers, that are experiencing postpartum. Shoot, those that aren't probably need those same practical
Exactly.
ways in which we can
Yes.
support them. When you're talking about transportation or just coming over and cleaning up their house and cooking a meal, just doing those things that I'm sure I can't only imagine, when I had first brought my baby home, yes, that would have been phenomenal, for people, for folks to do. And I actually did have that level of support, but I can only imagine what that would do for a mother that's, having, experiencing mental health challenges during that time. And then I think what all moms need to hear, you said something that was so key. You're a good mom. You're doing a good job affirming us, affirming that we are good moms. Because like you said, even if you're not experiencing, something signs as severe as maternal mental health, or PPD, you still question, right? Am I doing this right? I don't know what I'm doing. I must be horrible, because we have those negative thoughts in our head. So those key 3 things will stick with me. How we can support. Just do practical everyday things, people. Practical, clean up, bring over some food, and tell the mothers in your life, they're doing a good job. They're good mothers. They're good mothers.
For moms who might be struggling, if you even suspect, even perhaps helping them go online and find sort of an online diagnostic quiz or just test, just to sort of be a checklist of maybe, are you experiencing this? Are you experiencing that? Sometimes that can be helpful, printing that out and having them take that to their provider when they go to speak with them. Or literally what I have done so many times, helping them make that call, like literally being on the phone with them. Now they have to be there too, the patient, the patient has to be there too. But I have called with many a woman and sort of talked through that initial, hey, I'm on the phone with this mom, she needs help. And being able to do that, because I can promise you, when you are in the throes of depression, everything takes so much energy. Your brain is not working sort of in the way that it's supposed to work. And so everything is just 1,000 times harder. Okay. So even if it's literally helping them make the call to get help, that can be that first step that they need to get into a place of receiving the help they need.
And what would you recommend, like what steps can they take to get access to non-judgmental, safe help? Because once again, there's already that fear, going in, like I'm already struggling because of the color of my skin, right? And I'm already having judgments passed upon me. So, and then now I find that, yeah, I've checked off I've gone on the internet and I've done a little, PPD diagnostic, and I answered yes to all of the questions. So now I'm like, oh, great. Now I do, my fears have been confirmed, right? So I have somebody that can support me in making the call, but then how do I make sure that I'm able to, access the care and the help that I need, where I really can get the help that I need?
Yes, that can definitely be a challenge. And I am just really happy to be able to say the organization Postpartum Support International, or PSI, they do a fabulous job of making PPD resources available and of being welcoming and open and making them available for women of color.
Okay.
Not just Black women, Asian women. I mean, they have support groups for Black moms, Asian moms. They just went the whole way because they understand it's universal for moms to experience this. So they are an international organization, and their website is postpartum.net. If you don't remember anything else that I say, postpartum.net. When you go on their webpage, they have directories that have providers in your area. There's usually a coordinator in each and every state.
Okay.
You will be connected to someone who can help you get to the help that you need. Now, of course, they can't absolutely guarantee, wherever you go and walk into what your experience will be, but they can at least get you started with some resources, local resources in your area. They can help in finding mental health counselors who specialize in postpartum depression. They have the support groups. They have recommendations and help for psychiatrists to help them be able to prescribe the correct medications. PSI is on fire. And I think that is one of the best resources and a great place to start, even just in helping to talk to that mom who finally, was able. Like, if they don't want you to make the call to a provider for help them make the call to the warm line of Postpartum Support International, because they will give you the encouragement, that's needed. One of the things that I often hear said in this field of postpartum depression is to convey to a mom, you are not alone, you are not to blame, and with help, you can get better. Just giving that message of hope. And PSI definitely does a bang up job doing that. So that is the number one resource I would recommend.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I had never heard of PSI. So that's a valuable resource that I'm going to put in my little toolbox in case I'm not having any more children, but I know, young women who will be. So that will be something that I will keep, in my, like I said, in my resource, so that I can make sure that if I experience someone, I can pass that information along. In talking about your book, we touched on it a little bit earlier, Out of the Mouths of Babes. What was your hope for moms who may be experiencing PPD when you wrote the book?
Well, my hope for my fellow PPD moms is definitely just encouragement, to giving them a little dose of humor each day, and also just the hope that you can experience joy, which I sort of talked about earlier as well. In the book, I'm sort of giving you a window into my life as a mom and sharing how just embracing the everyday moments with my children and the conversations that you have and the things that they say, that those things can bring joy, they can bring enlightenment, and they are particular to your journey and your child. And so the book is sort of my journey with my children. My encouragement to moms for and my PPD moms, keep fighting, because there's joy. Once you get out of that tunnel that you're in, there is joy that is waiting for you through your children. So don't throw in the towel, get the help that you need. And there are blessings full of many insights also that are available and waiting for you through your children, because God gave you your specific child or children. So he's got something in store for you through those little rugrats, as we call them sometimes. Lovingly.
Yes, lovingly, lovingly. Do you have any other thoughts or insights you'd like to share with us? You've shared so many wonderful nuggets and information that, like I said, is helpful for those that I didn't experience, postpartum depression, but I know others that have, like yourself. And then, I want to be a support and a resource for those that I may experience, in my life moving forward. So are there any other insights, like I said, or resources that you can share with us?
Other insights I might add is another sort of resource or source that you could encourage a mom to reach out to is whichever of the healthcare providers in her world she feels closest to. And that might be the pediatrician, because actually postpartum, you see the pediatrician more than you see your OBGYN. And there are changes coming. Legislation is being passed. I mean, there's so many things being done on the macro level to help moms be able to manage this condition that hopefully will make awareness, treatment, all of that better. But in the meantime, reach out to a health professional that you feel closest to. And even just in sharing your symptoms, that way that trust is kind of already there if you feel like you just can't reach out to someone that you don't know at all. So I just think health professionals can be helpful in general in that way. And the last piece of advice I'll give is something that I've found myself to be guilty of sometimes, which is, even if it's a mom that's close to you and you may not want to talk about or put postpartum depression out there on the table because you don't want to seem like you're being a Debbie Downer, you don't want to speak negativity into their life and over their pregnancy. What I've found is that it is very hard for women to come forward. And oftentimes your first go around, they might not even be honest and tell you the truth with how they're feeling. And so I feel that it's worth it now that we know sort of the high numbers of women who experience this, that it's okay to sort of put that out there to moms. And, if you start having a hard time, if you're not feeling like yourself already, because symptoms can begin from pregnancy and go all the way up until even your child is 2 or 3, you might be experiencing symptoms. And so just being on the lookout of talking about postpartum depression or putting it out there in a way that gives that mom an opportunity to maybe take the bait a little bit more. And I've been guilty sometimes of just saying, well, I'm not going to say anything. I don't want to mention, I'm just because I went through postpartum depression, that don't mean everybody does. And I don't want to speak. I've done that before and then found out later that those same moms were going through a struggle and a challenge.
That's why I said we have to be vulnerable and be willing to tell our stories and to share those experiences with one another.
Yes. And just looking even for opportunities. Another risk group for postpartum depression is moms who have preemies and moms whose babies spend time in the NICU. Those are all very stressful. It's just a whole nother stressful situation coming in on birthing a child, having a whole baby. And those moms also have a greater risk of experiencing some type of maternal mental health condition. So we can just reach out in so many ways. I think that's the most important thing to do as mothers, as Black women. Just helping each other out, because we can kind of sometimes perpetuate this superwoman syndrome and supermom syndrome that's killing Black women all over, the nation. And we can perpetuate that even unknowingly and unwittingly, instead of sort of normalizing and saying, hey, if you need some help or if you're not doing good, that's okay. You can trust me. And I am here to help and help you get whatever step that you need to take, whatever help you need, because I want you to be the best mom that you can be. We know that being a mom is one of the most important jobs in the world. If you think about it, you're being entrusted with forming a human heart almost, just so we want to set our fellow moms for success. We don't want to make them feel that they have to have it all together and they have to be able to handle everything all the time. I think if we can get rid of that and women can be more real and more vulnerable, we will see a lot more women receive the help that they need.
Okay, well, I'm so appreciative of you being on Black Facts. And before we say goodbye to one another, I have to have you speak directly about your book, Out of the Mouths of Babes. Please share with our viewers what is Out of the Mouths of Babes. I know what it is, but I want you to share with them what it is.
Sure. Out of the Mouths of Babes is a 31-day devotional specifically for moms. And in it, I share just the lighthearted adventures of motherhood, but that are connected with spiritual insights that I gain from having interactions with my children along the way. And from that, again, as I stated earlier, I want it to be a vehicle that encourages moms to do what I call embrace mommy moments, embrace your mommy moments, that God has mommy moments just sort of ordained and waiting for you to experience. And sometimes in the hustle and bustle of life, we can rush right past them. And so my hope is to encourage moms to slow down a little bit and take in the joys that come from interacting with your little ones. And it's the new book that I wrote. I'm really excited about it. You can get the book on my webpage, which is www.yourmommymoments.com. Mommy is MOMMY. And you can also connect with me on Facebook and Instagram at Your Mommy Moments. I would be open to hearing from you. And even on my webpage, I have a space where moms can share their mommy moment stories with me. I love hearing those stories and am always looking to celebrate how children can help us experience joy and insights in life. So I'm just excited to be here and share about that book and share the hope, especially for moms who might be struggling.
Thank you. Thank you, Nicole. This is, my heart is full. I'm so happy to have you on here. We have such wonderful, beautiful history, and I've, been there before children, and now, they're growing up into beautiful young ladies. And I'm so happy that, you were able to, survive and make it through, and be here to be able to, share your story with others and be able to write insights into a book, put your experiences raising your three beautiful daughters into a book that I know will encourage and inspire other moms that are out there. So just thank you again for talking with me about this important, subject matter, because I think that we need to, like you said, normalize it so we have more conversations, and, we can make sure that there are no mothers from this point on suffering in silence or being isolated because they don't feel like they can reach out and get the help that they need. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
You're most welcome. Absolutely. Anytime.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Black Facts. Together we can and we will improve our own health outcomes and that of our community for future generations. As a mother, I ask that my fellow mothers, please be kind to yourself and reach out and talk to someone. We all need help sometimes, and it's okay if you just need to be heard. But if you really feel like you need to get some extra help, please don't be afraid to do so. If you have any questions or suggestions for show topics for Black Facts, be sure to email us at blackphacts@gmail.com. Follow us at Black Facts on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and subscribe to our new YouTube channel so you can stay up to date on new upcoming episodes. Next time, join me for another engaging conversation, and let us all know the facts.